Hey guys, welcome to my first YouTube video, and my first YouTube video will be about my book reviews on the books that I've read in the month of May. Okay. Oh, that's really heavy. Anyways, okay, so let's go on to the first book, and that is oh, sorry, I got distracted there. That is Cersei by Madeline Miller, and I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and there is a good reason, okay? First things first, I absolutely adore Madeline Miller.
Brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique.
She is one of my favorite authors, and that is because I really enjoy writing that's poetic and flowery, and that might not be for everyone because it's really hard to read books that are poetic and flowery, and this is definitely poetic and flowery because, you know, I'm pretty sure that's how the traditional Greek literature is written like. It's quite poetic.
Are you sure about that?
And this is a retelling of the Greek goddess Cersei. So basically, you get to see her perspective on the many Greek myths we've read when we were younger or we've read now. And I think this book deserves its 5 out of 5 stars because to make a supposedly superior being such as Cersei, who's the daughter of titans who are really powerful, and make her seem human and relatable in her struggles, you feel for her, you feel for her heartbreak, and you feel when she feels good, and you feel it when she feels betrayed. That just means that the book was really well written.
Wow!
And I have many tabs here because there are many very memorable lines, and this book also made me slightly fall for charming characters, and one of those is the Greek god Hermes. He's very charming in this book, although it's only a slight crush. Because, you know, he's not really a main character. He's more of like a passing character in this book. But I really do love this book, and it deserves its 5 out of 5 stars. Madeline Miller, you never miss, is What Happens in London, which is written by Julia Quinn. And basically, this follows the story of Olivia Bevilstoke and Sir Harry Valentine, who's spying on each other.
Yeah, boy.
Weird, right? That's kind of weird. Stalkish. You could get reported for that nowadays. I think you can report people who spy on you to the police. I think. Anyways, so they're spying on each other for odd reasons. Odd? I don't know what's my measurement of odd, but to me, it's odd. For example, Olivia heard a rumor that Sir Harry Valentine kind of like killed his fiance, who is now dead, obviously. That's how the rumor started. But yeah, so she's spying on him because she thinks he's a murderer, and he in return spies on her because like her potential suitor, a Russian prince, potentially supports Napoleon. And basically, just a little bit of history here. I'm not a history expert, but basically Great Britain does not like Napoleon. So if a Russian prince who supports Napoleon decides to marry an English woman, that kind of goes downhill. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars because although like it was a really entertaining book, the banter was amazing. It's like it's kind of like a very mild enemies to lovers, But I felt like they could have done more with the plot, considering that the plot such as like Sir Harry Valentine being a potential murderer and the Russian prince being potentially the end of England. And yeah, I feel like this book should have been longer and, you know, really like put that plot into the book and not like let romance take a backseat. Not backseat, more like balance action and romance, since the plot itself requires action. But it was a good read, so even if it was missing something when I was reading it, I did enjoy it. So it's a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, next is When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn. This is the Bridgerton book that follows the story of Francesca Bridgerton, and I really didn't plan on buying this at first because, I don't know, I just wasn't interested in it, and then I decided to buy it because I remembered that I really did remember that Francesca Bridgerton's character is quite different from the usual Bridgerton sibling who's like loud and rowdy.
Daphne! You must make haste! Should you think she heard me?
She's more reserved, but that doesn't mean she's a pushover. She's actually really smart and witty, but she doesn't have to be loud to take you down, if that makes sense. And yeah, I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I don't rate books that are good but not amazing a 5 out of 5 stars because that doesn't do my 5-star books justice. Anyways, I rated this 4 out of 5 because I really did enjoy the story. This is my second favorite Bridgerton book. My most favorite is The Viscount Who Loved Me because nobody can replace Kate Sheffield's and Anthony Bridgerton's romance for me.
Temptation like none he'd ever seen.
But I really did like how Julia Quinn didn't romanticize like having feelings for someone who's in a relationship and that kind of stuff, as well as, you know, miscarriage, those kinds of things. And yeah, I really like that because sometimes authors tend to romanticize things that are traumatizing in real life. So I really appreciate that. And also this book is really spicy. I had to skip like 20 pages of pure spice. Guys, I'm serious. I used to think like From Blood and Ash was the spiciest book I've read. This one is very, very descriptive. No censoring. There's literally no censor to the description here of the spice.
Oh my god!
Safe to say, really spicy, made me really, really red. Next is American Royals by Catherine McKee. I don't have the physical copy anymore because I'm giving it away, and hopefully the person who will receive it will enjoy it, but I did not enjoy it, and here's the reason why. I really find it hard to relate to rich white people because their struggles to me, and I might sound very offensive, but this is just my personal opinion, but their struggles to me don't really seem like struggles because as a person who comes from a third world country, their struggles seem like literally nothing compared to like our struggles here, especially because it's really difficult to live in the Philippines, the processing of everything, paperwork, you know, the corruption, and reading about rich white people complaining about the duties of being a royal and how difficult it is. I mean, although they are allowed to feel that it's difficult, right? Because, you know, every person has their own struggles, but it's the way the characters were written was just really bad. Like, they all just seemed entitled, and really the only interesting person there was the antagonist, Daphne, and she was a jerk, and I didn't like her either, but she's the most interesting one. And this book actually managed to butcher the one bed trope because I literally felt nothing when I read it. And then they also butchered the slow burn because they were setting up the main character, Princess Beatrice, and her bodyguard to have like a slow burn, but then they kissed at like page 98. So I really didn't like it. And you know what? Princess Beatrice had more chemistry and like some sort of like kilig from me when she was around her forced and obligated fiance Teddy, who's actually not a jerk. And like Samantha, Princess Samantha in this book was just really entitled for me, and the author really whitewashed Nina Gonzalez, who's like I think the only person of color main character there. So yeah, I'm just really disappointed. And her romance with Prince Jefferson it seemed really forced. So yeah, that's it. Next we have Song of Achilles. I customized my book, that's why it looks like this. And safe to say, this is one of my favorite books alongside Lovely War, which I'll talk about later. Song of Achilles was written by Madeline Miller, the same author of Cersei. This came out first though, and I absolutely adore this book. I've read many reviews, not really many, but some reviews that say that they didn't really like the story of Patroclus and Achilles. And if you didn't already know, this book follows the story of Achilles but in Patroclus' perspective. And some people were like, oh, I didn't really enjoy it because it seemed like their love came out of nowhere. And I think that's kind of like my favorite part. It's because when you're a teenager, because this starts when they're young, when you're a teenager, love literally comes out of nowhere. You're suddenly thinking about this person and like you can't get them off their head, and it starts somewhere. Like obviously you have to see them first, like how Patroclus first saw Achilles. And sometimes the feelings kind of hit you out of nowhere, and I think that's what makes this book beautiful. Also, this book was beautiful and so sad. Again, I really like books that are written to be poetic and flowery. I just wanna hurt you and make you cry. Because yes, I really do like poetic books that seem like have this poetic flow. So I really did love Song of Achilles. Although not everyone's gonna cry because of this book, I'm just a really like big softie. So when other people are in pain, I feel their pain and end up crying. So yeah, what happened here broke me to the point that I actually cried in the middle of class out of nowhere. And there was literally nothing to remind me of Song of Achilles. It just popped up in my head and I cried. Next is Kingdom of the Wicked. Okay, Kingdom of the Wicked, I rated a 4 out of 5 stars, and that's because the start was kind of slow for me. I did love this book, but the start was really slow for me because I really don't like it when the first chapter or the first paragraph doesn't pull me in, and I just felt obligated to finish this at first because I paid for this. I paid good money for this. So yeah, sorry, I had to pause there because sorry, my battery, there's just like a battery notice. And anyways, yeah, so I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars because it was really slow for me at first. The first few chapters were so hard to get through. It took me a few days, but once the plot kicks in, it's a definite page turner. The magic system here I really like, and also the lore, or like the basis, like the grimoires, like all those stuff, like I don't know how to describe the myths or like the fairy tales or the folk tales were really interesting in this book. Like those little details of that I really liked. And I really absolutely adore the main character because it's so common nowadays to have like main characters who are stupid, naive, and suicidal. And Emilia DiCarlo, the main character in this book, is not that. She's smart, she's strong, she's driven.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend, and she is the moment. Now, come on now.
And although she can be suicidal sometimes because she's kind of like, she's driven by emotion sometimes, which actually is good because a main character should have a flaw, okay? And that makes it relatable because sometimes when we make decisions, it's usually driven by emotions, especially when we really feel for something, like we're angry. So we tend to like not think rationally, and so we act rashly. We act stupidly. And yeah, and also the enemies to lovers here, I really did like. It's not the usual enemies to lovers. I don't know how to explain. You just have to read it to know what I meant by that.
你真没见过黑社会啊！
xuống đây nè.
操你妈！
Hai vụ á, mày có chân á, tao bắn mày á, mày tưởng mày ăn hiếp nhân dân là tại nhân dân không có xuống, ở đây tất cả cũng tao đều
敢不
có
敢
xuống
跟我
đó.
有屁话？操你
Mày
妈！
chết mày cho mày chửi thề tao bắn mày á. Mày thấy cái này là gì không? Súng không ơi.
操你妈！我也敢 搞cái bị có sao biết khí sổ.
Đâu mà chữ thề con cặc đâu mà nói chuyện vô dân quá.
Sao?
Mày coi chừng mày chết với tao mày.
Because Prince Wrath, I think the love interest of Emilia de Carlo here, he might be the only one. I'm not sure. I haven't read the second book to this is still coming out. This ends in a cliffhanger. But anyways, Prince Wrath is really, really charming and attractive.
You want my heart, and we will never, ever, ever be apart.
Yeah. And I like it when like supposedly evil like love interests have like a soft spot for the main character. So yeah, I recommend this for people who want to read something related to the enemies to lovers trope. Finally, my favorite book, Lovely War. I absolutely adore this book. I will never shut up about this book in case anyone asks me about like recommendations, and that's because this book is beautiful. Julie Berry, thank you for really putting diversity into this book, because you know, media nowadays, or media even before, always like to whitewash everything, especially the World War. And I really appreciate how she addressed that, the fact that the World War wasn't only fought by the white people, also the black people, also the people of color. And she addressed how like black people, on top of having to suffer because of the war, also had to suffer the abuse, violence, and racism they received because of their color. I really appreciate that. The romance here is really beautifully written, but the best part of this book is the Greek gods narration. And I tell you, the difference in narration based on the Greek god is so well done, because you can tell, like for example, if it's Aphrodite's narration, you can tell that she focuses on the romantic aspects, while if it's Ares, the god of war's narration, it focuses more on the action, the brutality of an event. And if it's Apollo, the way he narrates things, it's quite rhythmic, like music, because he is the god of music. So yeah, that's really great. And this book is a perfect mix of romance, mythology, tragedy, history. I forgot the other thing. I know there was 5 things I described this, but yes, this book, I absolutely love this book. 5 out of 5 stars. You guys should read this right now. Finally, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I first rated this a 5 out of 5 stars, but I might have to rescind that because this lacks people of color, which is kind of weird because the main character Addie LaRue basically has lived for a very long time. I think she's 300 years old, but then she still looks young because of a deal she made with Luke, the antagonist. And yeah, it's kind of weird how like she went through life without even meeting a person of color, which is really easy to incorporate into this book. I have a lot of tabs because there's actually a lot of life lessons here, and I really appreciated that. But I do have to say, regarding the characters, Addie is like the kind of character that you would like her, but only if your personality is somewhat like her. Because although she's supposed to be flawed, every main character is supposed to be flawed, it really depends on your personality whether you're gonna like her or not. Because you know, you either find her annoying, absolutely annoying, or you actually really relate to her or like her. But the best part of this book is Henry, her love interest besides Luke, because Henry I think really reaches into the general audience because he's very relatable in terms of his struggles, and we can really relate this to our real life. And Luke, the antagonist, was really interesting. He's a very complex character. At first you'd think he doesn't care because he's supposed to be an entity that doesn't care about anything as mere as a human, but he is really a complex character, and I think I really enjoyed the parts where Luke is in it because the complexity is really compelling. And yeah, this book is really slow, so if you came here for action, do not read this book, because this book is more of like a fictional book that makes you reflect on your life. So yeah, that's all the books that I've reviewed. Books that I've read for May, and I hope you liked my reviews, and I hope you like this video. I apologize, this is my first video, so it's gonna be a little rough. But yeah, thanks for watching.